Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Whoops, sorry about that little blip. But anyway, technology, especially across the thousands of miles, oceans, and et cetera, et cetera. That's what it's got to be. But as always, we kick off our show by paying a little homage to the wonderful folks on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon squad over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You do get a great sampling of exclusive shows with no ads, early shows, and fun Discord benefits for 7 days for free. And then to stay on board for as little as $2 a month. And as I like to say, right from the Blues Brothers, that's a lot of entertainment for $2 a month. These wonderful folks, such as Derek Trevelyan, my buddy, the figure dude, Francie, my wife's hairdresser, great lady, loves our Bad Movies podcast, Luke Lord, Mr. Xbox Expansion Pass, and my Uncle Tim, Haran, tuning in with us over on the Patreon. Also, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, our friends Kelly and Crayley, Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, my journalist partner, Kurt Krug, who gets me all those great celebrity interviews, and our new friend, Tanya Lee, whoops, who was our guest last time. Such a very, very nice lady. We'd love to have her on board, and we love that she's enjoying our shows now. So, and of course, without these folks, we would have next to nothing. The awesome Nias family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. We are very glad to have you on board. Little extra plug this week for Kelly and Crayley's charity fundraiser called the Multiverse Fundraiser, a virtual con and charity fundraiser all rolled into one. This year, they are to the benefit of Comic Books for Kids, a charity providing child-friendly comic books to children in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S., and they are raising funds for them on January 24 through 26, so you have a couple of weeks until that's coming up. They will have both pre-recorded and live Comic-Con style content to include celebrity, comic, and writing guests, to include Creek Wilson, Leah Williams, Jerry Gaylord, John Cosper, and more. Please visit the multiversefundraiser.com for more information and instructions on how to tune in and contribute. All right. Got that out of the way. Very excited. Sean, you tell me, because you've got more of a finger on the pulse than I ever could. Am I missing any news items maybe from the last week or so? Anything big?
I was doing a bit of checking myself. Nothing confirmed. There's now the rumors about the Star Trek Lego collaboration.
Yes.
So
How could I forget?
Rumors. It is all rumors, but okay. I want this to be true. Financially, I don't want this to be true. Not even a little bit.
And look at this room. Where would it go? Where would it go?
Right. But no, excitement-wise, I'm still a kid. I've loved Lego forever. And we've never had, with the exception, asterisks, we've never had Star Trek Lego. Where we have had a lot of Star Wars Lego because they know how to merchandise. But we did have Blue Bricks, and Blue Bricks was good fun. I have a little Blue Bricks outside.
There was also a Mega Bloks Enterprise a couple of years, a decade and a half ago.
Yeah,
it's on my shelf back there.
Excellent. Add that to my collection list. I'll be dropping by for It was really good, but they've just finished up with their license. A bit like with Eagle Moss has finished up with the license for the models. Fan Home have obviously taken over.
I love them.
I love them too. We're also here in Ireland, Fan Home. You can ship here. I know I speak for my friends in Canada as well. Anyway,
that sucks. I'm so sorry. Well, if it makes you feel any better, Eagle Moss kept $200 of my dollars when they went out of business with an order in place for me. So I'm feeling somewhat of the pain. I can dig it.
Do you know what? Yeah, I think they've about 40 quid of mine. So I 40 of that pain you feel. I'm right there with you, but. Well, yes, but this will be really, really cool. I think, so it's all of this, treat it as rumor, it's all water cooler talk, but it could be an Enterprise D that they're leading with Lego. If it is coming, it'll be the back end of 2025. It'll be the Christmas present of 2025.
Yeah. That's good.
You probably start giving people time to save. because
Oh,
Lego's famously cheap.
Yeah, yeah, very famously, always, especially the licensed stuff, without a doubt. Very, just very.
100%, yeah. I think genuinely for my friend's birthday a couple of years ago, our group of friends went in to get the big Millennium Falcon for him.
$400 or $500, I think.
Yeah, we were like, do you want to organize a party? No, here's your Millennium Falcon. Enjoy it. And in fairness, he did, so it was fine.
Yes, thank you.
That, I think, in terms of the news, because of the time of year, because everything, it has been a little bit quieter over like any kind of announcements or anything like that. There have been a couple of interviews dropped about the upcoming, obviously, Section 31, which will be with us in 19 days.
Correct.
Yeah, actually, I was trying to do my maths there. I'm not very good at it. And yeah, I know. Yeah, the kind of and so the PR has started to really get in gear for that now. There was a recent interview with Rob Krasinski, who's playing Zeph in Section 31. Now, he's one of those people where if you're in a room, in a building that he's in, not necessarily in the room with him, but in a building, you will know he's a Trekkie because he's that much of a Trekkie. And I know he gave a really interesting, and I think I get it. So Section 31, it's not the next generation. It never claimed to be the next generation. It's quite obviously not the next generation from the advanced materials that's been sent out. And he has said, look, as a Trekkie, I get it. I get that this is not exactly, this is not Star Trek Legacy and everything, but it's the hope of, can people please go in with an open mind? Please kind of go in and give it a chance. So that's that's sort of where we're all at the moment as well. It's like, right, Section 31, right. Okay, we're excited. We don't really know what to expect. Is it going to be more Discovery? Is it going to be something closer to Strange New Worlds? Is it going to be completely separate altogether? We don't really know.
Right.
So that's how we're starting 2025. How,
God.
The summary, I don't know.
I know, and we don't have any idea when Strange New Worlds might come on, but it'll be coming on.
About the Section 31, there's a magazine cover recently, and there was a shot of Rachel Garrett, and something that I noticed that was kind of fun was the phaser that she's holding, the Type 2, is a mix of a sleeked up version of the phaser that was used in yesterday's Enterprise, but with Greeblies from the Season 1 Cricket from TNG.
Nice.
So there's some really interesting, faithful stuff, redesigns with some of that I really appreciate. And those of you listeners know that I am a Canonista picky man. So for me to say that I like a prop redesign is a big deal.
Same. Absolutely the same. Oh my gosh. Well, good. Hey, that was a great impromptu sneak in for some news. So yeah, we will be over the next couple of episodes. We do have a random episode next week, which I believe is a Discovery episode that Todd, my other partner, picked. We may bring him on for that, or we may bring him back to talk about Strange New Worlds. So we will see. But let's get to the main event. We're talking about Star Trek Lower Decks. This came to us in 2020 as being was this the second or third era show of the new era? Because we had Discovery,
Picard came first.
And then Picard came first.
Picard Season 1 came first, so this was number 3.
This was number 3.
Then Picard, then Lower Decks.
Exactly. So this was a revolution. There hadn't been anything ongoing animated for Star Trek in 40-something years before this came along. The much maligned, although I watched a great special about the original animated series recently on YouTube, that made me want to go back and watch it. But this was combining the very irreverent comedy stylings of Mike McMahon and the Rick and Morty, which I've never really gotten into. I won't say I'm not a fan. I know my son, my adult son, when he was a teenager, when the Szechuan sauce came to McDonald's, it was a very, very big deal. That's as much as I knew about Rick and Morty, to be honest with you. But yeah, this launched into our homes in 2020, and holy cow, for the vast majority of people, with the exception, I started doing the show in the fall of 2020, so it was almost at the same time period. I recorded with a couple of folks at that time that were not fond of it. They kind of colored my opinions of it. They ended up leaving our show. We had some other people come on who kind of re-sparked my interest in it. Peter came along, and then we're both unabashed fans. So I've been very much obviously watching it the whole time, but absolutely just loving it as much as humanly possible. So that was my very off the cuff introduction. But let's get into talking about some favorites. Let's get into talking about some shows, some episodes that we could have done without. I have a couple. The legacy of the show and the potential future for these characters, where we might see them again. So off the top, I have 5 episodes. I'm thinking we'll go in a round robin fashion, and we will start with our guest. I would say in no particular order, so don't feel like, oh God, this is my number 1, but this is really should be my number 3. Sean, why don't you jump on in, give us one of your top 5 favorites and a short why.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with my most recent one, which is the penultimate episode of season 5, because I've spoken of it. So Fisher Quest, I love it because the plot is two-cent. It's an elevator pitch of a plot, but that was never the point. The point was, let's have fun, let's explore what a multiverse we can do with a multiverse in Star Trek, and. On first watch, I was like, cool, yeah, other universes, this is great, this is brilliant. And one of the jokes that I actually sort of missed in the hubbub of, oh my God, this person's back, and that person's back, and that person's back, is that Star Trek has never done multiverse. They've done parallel universe.
Right.
They've done the Terran universe. And there is that episode, Parallels of the Next Generation. But in reading interviews with Mike and everything, I had kind of failed to appreciate that it's, Star Trek is one of the properties that has never really done multiverse. So doing it like this was an awful lot of fun because it was a great excuse to get these returning legacy characters and actors. And I am still not okay after Jolene Blaylock returned to Star Trek after so long.
So crazy.
Like, any one of these returning legacy people would be enough to be like, oh my God, this is it forever. Like, Garrett Wang was amazing, and that was in the trailer, and we were like, oh my God, this is fantastic, brilliant. Of course, it's Harry Kim, and we want to get Harry. Oh my God, and Garrick and Bashir, and then I was watching, I was like, this is amazing. And then Alfre Woodard just walks out and like, oh, Lily Sloan is back as well. Of course, why wouldn't she be? So for sheer, as much I enjoyed it so much, it was so much fun. And then just for me as a Trekkie, Fisher Quest is my most recent favorite episode.
Excellent. I love it. Yeah. Hard to argue with any of that. So many moments. My goodness. Peter.
Can't really disagree with that one. So let me pick something else. I am going to go all the way back to season 1, just for grins and giggles, and I am going to say Crisis Point, because it was just so random. I loved all of the cliches, like how they started the title credits and you saw the aspect ratio of the video change. They could step in and out of the bar. It was really, really fun. You had all sorts of goofiness, but also you had some interesting character development there with Mariner figuring out about herself and her dislike towards her mother.
Yeah.
So there was that turning point there that was really interesting, but also just, this was like a season 1 moment of just like, let's do something, it's a holodeck episode. Yes, it's a holodeck episode, but we're going to just ramp it up to stupid and just make it ridiculous. And that's one of the things that I really like about Lower Decks, is like they take all of these things from the shows, all of the shows, mash them together and just, make something new and hilarious.
Right.
So there's a lot to like about Crisis Point.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. Well, mine, I'm still in season 1 for that one, but the classic thought process, you got to start at the start. Second Contact is season 1, episode 1. This started it all. And this showed us that, canon Star Trek in particular, because everyone can say, oh, this happened in a book, and particularly Star Wars is great for their, 30-something years of an expanded universe that all got thrown out the window, and we're not going to debate that because nobody really likes that. But this is how to show you that canon Star Trek, which is something that appears on screen, can kind of dance on the edge of satire, do it brilliantly, contribute something to the overall, mosaic that is Star Trek in general, and be fun, and not be and not to the point of being ridiculous. So giving us characters that we can get invested in, that we can get excited about. So we're meeting, everybody for the first time. Mariner and Boimler know each other, though obviously not for very long, because Mariner, while she's a bit older, because she's the same age as Wesley Crusher, we find out much later. Boimler is just out of the academy, but we meet Rutherford for the first time, and we meet Tendi for the first time because she's just coming on board the ship. So they're all young. And so it's its own post Starfleet Academy, it's a little Harry Kim, but they're all young and we're all just kind of charting their progress. So it's immensely fun. It does have a weird, like, zombie spitting black plotline infection thing, which is just like, whoa, there, and Boimler almost getting his, the inside of his thigh chopped off by a batleth. I mean, they're blasters away from the jump. So fun stuff. Great way to get started. Sean, give us another one.
Gonna go to season 2 for this one. Wage douche.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, I could just argue it gave us T'Lyn, and that would nearly be argument enough for why I enjoy this episode as much as I do. But just seeing the difference of the lower deckers across the different ships, and still has, I think, off the top of my head, it's the funniest end credits of any Star Trek episode when it's the lower decks of the Borg cube.
Yeah, just
because I was there watching, because I'm so trained by Marvel, you can't leave while the end credits are playing at this point.
Right,
I was like, someone's gonna blink or someone's gonna, and they don't, and it's brilliant, and it's absolutely. But just like, you get to Lynn, and she's constantly accused of, she's out of control, she's gone wild because she lifted an eyebrow, and but then you got Ma'a on the Bird of Prey as well. Ma'a obviously going on to become such an important character throughout the rest of the show. Just so much fun. Low stakes, high stakes. We get T'Lyn and we get lower decker Borg.
Right. Excellent. Peter.
I'm gonna go back to season 5, and I'm going to say fully dilated.
Fun.
This was a great one. It was you're mostly focused on T'Lyn and Tendi, primarily Tendi in this episode, but there's a lot of shenanigans. Obviously, Rutherford and Boimler are licking consoles. They must have gotten sick afterwards too. I don't know.
Just like you. That's how Peter got sick. He was licking windows.
I was licking my margarita off the transporter console. So anyway, but we get a really great like throwback to like Voyager and some other sci-fi shows where we get like this weird time dilation thing. Of course, everything goes wrong, which is classic Lower Decks and also hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get like Tendi trying to one up T'Lyn in terms of, I want to be the science officer, so I have to come up with like the most amazing way to use science while we're trapped on this planet. And she does like, creates electricity enough to repower a positronic network that's been in the form of Data's head just
on a hand
there.
crank. And it's purple.
Which is great. Yeah, it's from the Purple universe, which is hysterical. But eventually you figure out that like T'Lyn is just trying to get them to work together to be better friends. And that's a really, I've loved T'Lyn since she showed up. Like, I can't argue with anyone on that. She's probably my favorite character. But just to see that relationship is really, really cool. The fact that they're both co-science officers afterwards is great. But then you also have like, I forget his name, but there's the one guy who's like following them all the time, trying to prove that they're.
It was Snell. Yeah.
Snell.
Yeah. Or Sneed. Snell. It was Snell.
So that's just hilarious. And then you've got Mariner who's like trying to like force an inner light moment. Like we've got like this meta joke about like she has to like have a husband or do all these things. It's just
right.
And then she has prison friends. It's like, oh, can we all leave with you? Nah, I'm done. And she just leaves.
Oh, good. That's good because we've killed people. Okay, great.
Yeah, and so it's poking a lot of fun at all the time shenanigans that happen throughout all of the shows, and it's just a great little just wink and nudge at that whole genre of episodes.
Awesome.
So.
Good deal. All right. Well, this is kind of an obvious one, but I'm going to throw it out there. Season 4, episode 2. I have no bones, but I flee. Moopsie is there was a we got a little Moopsie. Why you got the baby one? because for anyone not watching us on YouTube, Sean is much like he was showing us a moment ago. His peanut hamper. You got all the good props. We're gonna have to talk about that. We have the big plush Moopsie that came from. Now I forget where it came from.
Master Replicas, is it?
Yeah, Master Replicas. So it does sit on the dresser in our bedroom. It has not killed us in the middle of the night, and that's a good thing.
I was going to say, that's very brave. That's like the weeping angels that I have up top. It's fair. It's not the smartest move.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen him move yet. But if I wake up one day and he's moved from one dresser to another dresser, he is going in the bin. But yeah, this was just, I think back to Star Wars, and like we've been rewatching some of the Star Wars series. Like, there's always a cute droid, or we're watching The Mandalorian again right now, and of course, when you see Grogu for the first time, and it's a cultural phenomenon. This was the cutest thing I think that Star Trek has ever given us. Everybody loves the Tribbles, right? But they don't have the personality. But this is cute, but it's entirely lethal. So it's Lower Decks in a nutshell. And it got a buddy of mine, my buddy Brian Cole's one of my oldest friends, who I let him use my Paramount Plus. But I know nobody does that. But I saw him he lives in a different town than me, but I saw him for lunch, for the holidays or whatever it is, and he was just saying Moopsie, because he and his teenage daughter loved the episode. So, Moopsie for me. All right, Sean.
I am gonna actually same season, empathological fallacies, because it's ridiculous, it's bonkers. It was a great bait and switch, but it also gave us the line, "Yes, I am Vulcan as a." That word. Yeah. And again, I mean, I'm a simple man. Talin's in the episode. I like the episode, and we got a lot of Talin, so I really like the episode.
Oh my gosh!
Just Gabrielle Louise. It's just such a gift to the show. Like, everyone's brilliant in it. She's just such a gift to the show. And the three guest stars, who's I feel terrible now because their names have escaped me. They were brilliant as well as the three Betazoid operatives.
Oh, right. I feel like one of them was Judy Greer, who's a native of Michigan, which is where we are, and it's from the same small hometown as my college roommate. I feel like it, but I'll have to go look it up.
Rachel Dratch, Janelle James, and Wendy Malick.
Rachel Dratch is one of my favorite SNL performers of the last 20 years. And yeah, I don't know where Judy Greer played a role on the show at some point. I'm absolutely sure of it, but I will look into it at a later time. But that's awesome. I love it. Absolutely. Peter.
I'm going to jump back to episode 5. Apparently I just like a lot of what I've seen most recently, which is fine. Starbase 80.
Stealing it from me, making my list short. That's okay, but that's okay.
Yep. So a lot of what I love about Starbase 80 is just a lot of I know this is going to be a little goofy. I love all the Easter eggs in this episode.
Oh my God, that's what it is.
There's so many.
It's a mountain.
There's so many things in the background. Like there's a store selling uniforms from like across the whole spectrum, which is hilarious. You've got Picard's uniform from Tapestry on a mannequin. There's just so many random things. Pile of red shirts.
Right.
They're using all classic TOS technology for the most part, wearing Enterprise jumpsuits. It's just a whole bunch of just smorgasbord of just old Star Trek visual stuff, and audio stuff, which is really fun. Because if you're sorry, I help with an audio show, so I pay attention to this stuff. But when you listen to the audio going on in Starbase 80, there's a lot of all the old sound effects, and it's just really fun.
Yeah.
And it's also really hilarious because everyone assumes that Starbase 80 is the problem, and it's not.
Right.
The problem comes from something else on the Cerritos. So it's like the horrible Starbase 80 that we've only heard about, like, and we saw one visual thing on the view screen once where someone had a Rolodex to try to figure out what was going on, which was legitimately hilarious. But this is the first time we've seen this station, and it's just a riotous run. And again, we get zombies, which is funny, going back to season 1. But
zombies, always with the zombies.
But it's just a really, really hilarious episode with so many tie-ins, so many Easter eggs, so many references. And they're not exact, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's just member berries. And it's like, oh, did you remember that? But this is more of a, that's the point of Starbase 80. Everything just
Right.
smushed together to be
Right.
ridiculous.
It is. It's the
Um,
it's the soup sandwich. I was at Selfridge International Guard Base with my brother, who's in the Air Force for 25 years. We're walking out of the BX. This was 25 years ago, and there's this very heavy set general. And my brother salutes him whenever we walk away. He says, "That's what we call a soup sandwich. It's when you take one thing and smash it into another thing." That's kind of what the episode was. It was
Yeah,
a big
pretty
fat.
much.
It was a big fat soup sandwich.
Yep. And the nice thing is it did kind of tee up some stuff that happened in the finale.
Yes.
So so it wasn't a bottle, it wasn't pointless. So but it was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. I think a big fat soup sandwich is going to be the name of this episode. That's an early favorite. All right. I'll jump back to season 2, episode 6, The Spy Humongous.
It's on the
This
list.
gave us back to Packlids, and the Packlids, we got them, I think, just the once in TNG where they kidnapped Geordi,
Mhm.
and we kind of learned about them this was, a long line of all engineers in Star Trek being abused or murdered and then brought back to life. How many times did Scotty die in the original series? 2 times?
At
3
least
times?
twice.
At least twice that I can think of. And then O'Brien being kidnapped and tortured. Oh my God. It was like, do it twice a season.
Well, technically he
We
died
have a whole
and we
list
got
on
an
the
alternate
times
version.
O'Brien suffered. Like,
You got a whole list?
There's content there, you know.
Oh my gosh. It's a matter of Irish pride, I'm sure.
There's a joke. O'Brien must suffer was part of the writer's room.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, anyway, yeah. So it was the episode where Picard had to have his heart swapped out. I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Oh,
Back
Smart
season
and
2.
Snare.
Oh, Samaritan Snare.
Yep.
Exactly correct. So we get the Packlids, but they really this was something that the show did great, which was take a one-off, crank it up to 11, but for the uninitiated tuning in, you're not like, well, I just don't get it. What's the deal with these? It wasn't so predicated on having seen that episode, which had aired 20 years previous or more so. But they turned them into a legit threat, which continued on through the rest of season 2. But I do love they're from Packlid Planet, the Clump ship. They keep calling Freeman Janeway. I don't know if it's in this episode or one of the subsequent ones.
Yeah.
And their ranking system is based on a series of hats, which reminds me of an old Dennis Leary routine where he's talking about the Catholic Church. Peter, sorry, talking about the Catholic Church, and it's all based on rankings of hats. And he says the Pope must have a huge effing sombrero. That's what it made me think. That's what it made me think of. So it was super delightful, and I think definitely the key to kind of what the show does best. So, yeah, alrighty, Sean. We're getting on the back half here. So I know I took one of Peter's, he took one of yours, so my list is shorter, but go for it.
That is great. Mine is easy because it's the episode following my last one. It's Parth Ferengi's Heart Place, where they go to Ferenginar, and
Fun.
Rutherford and
Travel
Tendi are supposed to get the deal, but they have to prove that they're newlyweds to get through that. But then you have just the return of Max Grodenchik and Chase Masterson as well, and Freeman understands the Ferengi a lot better than anybody else does. But I think the piece de resistance in that episode for me is the Dominion War memorial to all the prophets that have been lost because business couldn't happen during the war. And you just have these Ferengi just breaking down in tears. Like, there's so much profits lost. And you're just like, in a way that is both absolutely in keeping with In Lower Decks, and it's such a, take the mickey and everything. And yet, there's not 1 second of that episode that I don't think could have appeared in DS9, couldn't have appeared in Next Generation. That is the Ferengi. That is what they would build a memorial to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's like, Rom playing this character throughout. That's very consistent with the Rom we know. And also, no, Rom was always a lot smarter than he gave him credit for, which
Right.
is also consistent with the Rom we've always known. And I
Right.
did sorry, I'm monologuing, but I did
No.
that it gave Lita a bit of agency, which was happening in DS9. Just a lot of the time, she was the sort of, and also featuring character in a scene. So it was nice for her to have, like we saw during the 6th episode, the Dominion War arc in DS9. She was cool. She could do stuff. She was great, and then she kind of faded again a little bit after that. So it's fun to be
Right.
like, is she the mastermind behind trying to get the best thing for the Ferengi? So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Good deal. Awesome. Peter.
I'm gonna say that one of my favorites, because the lists have gotten moved around, bumped around. I'm gonna go with I Excretus from season 2. Everything in the name, right there.
Right.
So this is another pseudo holodeck episode, but the whole crew is like doing crew evaluations when they bring back an alien from the animated series, as they do. This is like the third one they did. I forget the name of the race, but they're able to break into 3 different parts and just kind of float. So it's one of those things that you can really only do in animation. I mean, they probably could do, but it would eat most of the budget in a live action episode.
Right.
One character today and nothing else.
Yeah. This is the character. That's all you get. So we get all sorts of different training. You have characters who are like, I'm going to do the best thing. And then they just completely fail. Like Mariner has the mirror universe where she just completely bombs it. This is also the episode where we get the infamous naked Boimler scene, which caused a lot of people to lose their minds.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
It was definitely a moment.
It was a moment. It was a thing that happened.
It was pretty funny, but it was definitely different. But we get like the bridge, the main bridge crew has to like do all these lower decks assignments, and the lower deckers have to do all these upper bridge assignments. And then the one thing that like runs the entire time is Boimler just has to fight the Borg. It's not really fight, it's kind of escape, it's kind of rescue, it's kind of a lot of things. Just like, oh, I didn't get 100%, I need to just keep on working on it until I get 100%. So it becomes part of the plot where like he's able to keep going so that they're able to get their evaluations fixed up and scare the instructor so that she retires instead, which is kind of funny. But at the very, very end, we get Boimler, who has managed to get himself assimilated. Walks out of it. I am excretus of Borg, and eventually he's fine, but it's just so ridiculous.
Oh my god.
There's so much just silliness. This was also one of the moments that it's like a minute and a half, but Rutherford is in the lovingly recreated engine room of the Enterprise from the Wrath of Khan. They recreated the uniforms, like he's wearing the jumpsuit. They recreated it in the entirety of the engine room, and Rutherford doesn't know what's going on, and the ship blows up. So we get an animated shot of the refit explode.
Oh, my baby.
Which was just hysterical. I was hoping that ship, because they animated, would show up in the finale. It didn't, but it was really, really funny to have them bring all this stuff back in and just, again, Lower Decks likes to bring things in, make it ridiculous, not like far flung into the absurd, except maybe that, 10 forward. Except for Naked Boimler.
The Naked Party.
But yeah, this was just a fun, ridiculous episode.
Oh my gosh.
Have you seen there's a creator online, Jill Curry, did a pumpkin carving of the Naked Boimler spread for Halloween a couple of years ago.
I think I saw that.
The most amazing thing ever.
That's some artistry. Yeah, I do believe it. And it was on a pumpkin, right? You said?
Yeah.
If I'm picturing it correctly. Oh, yeah.
That's hysterical. I did not see that, but that's amazing.
Time for some hardcore Googling. All right, here's my last one, because Peter stole my thunder with Starbase 80. But I picked Tuvix, season 4, episode 1, the love letter to Voyager. Voyager, which, as we know from Picard, does end up in the Fleet Museum, but this is the beginning of that journey. So this is the love letter to Voyager, but it's a new spin on in my opinion, besides Gowron and the Eyes, the most memed Star Trek anything, which is poor Tuvix. The debate that will never end. The impossible decision that Janeway had to make. But then it just turns into it gets beyond absurd, because everybody's getting spliced. I can't even remember the variety of the different ones that were. I mean, throw one out there, because I just cannot think of. They're all blurred together in my mind. What's one of the
Swalens? I want a fish. He's not my best work.
Oh my god. Oh, so it's funny, because I had to review this, because I need to get in all the 50 episodes before we did this. I had them on kind of in the background when I was working in like early December. So if something caught my ear, I would turn around and look. So my memory is somewhat fractured, but these were the ones that just absolutely jumped out at me. So that's my 5. Who's got one left? Sean, do you have some left?
I do. The finale of season 4, Old Friends, New Planets. I thought, what just a fabulous payoff to. I am on record as being frustrated with Mariner's arc in season 4, but I thought it was a fabulous payoff to it. I loved how they used Nick Locarno. And look, I love cameos. Shannon Phil, who's retired from acting, came back to play C-Dutch. I mean,
they can get them. It's like they have this magical ability to just swipe people who are like, I'm done. I'm out of it. It's crazy.
Just incredible. And a genuinely emotive episode. Plus, we got the vertical warbird as well, designed by Andy Probert, that never went into production. Just things like so. Feast for the eyes, but also just hearing Mariner. It's the most. I think it's the phrase that sums up her as a character, and so naturally, I'm going to paraphrase it, which is, "I may not always like what Starfleet does, but I believe in the mission." And I was like, "There you go. That's Mariner. Define Mariner as a character. That's Mariner."
Yeah.
And then, of course, right, okay, we've got the Genesis device. The Ferengi put a paywall on it. Boom.
That was one of the most hilarious moments.
I do. When I want to doom scroll, like I need to distract myself, I'll have Memory Alpha up and I'll just hit a random page. And something either came up or it led me to it on Friday, the summary of this episode, or the summary of basically that. And I was just reminded of that. I'm like, oh my God. I love it how this show just gets they get the Ferengi better than, almost as great as DS9 did, which of course we'll talk about in one of the Ferengi episodes that we have when we get to the second part of our show. So, anybody else got any more? Peter?
I think that's all I got in terms of like my best ones. I mean, there's so many good episodes.
I know it was so tough. How about you, Sean? Are you wrapped up?
I'm wrapped up. I mean, like, I could sit here and go, right, episode 1, let's go through it. But
good deal. All right. Well, into every life a few raindrops must fall. I had just 2 episodes that I was not crazy about. I'll start off with season 2, episode 5, An Embarrassment of Duplers. To me, it was almost too dumb of a premise of a show. But I do love that Richard Kind is now part of Star Trek canon. He's delightful. So that definitely softened the blow for me. That's it. Sean, do you have one?
I just have the one.
Okay.
And it is I've lost the name of it now. A mathematically perfect redemption.
Yep.
Because the character I struggled with the most through all of Lower Decks is Peanut Hamper. And I thought we got a good one in, I think it was season 4, where we got a good resolution to her story with
with
Agamus. I really enjoyed that. But this one, for me, it was the only one where I go like, this.
Was it with the bird people?
With the bird people, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because I like Harry Shum Jr. and he's like the big guest of that episode, but
it just
that one didn't do it for me. It was a bit one note.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Peter, how about you?
That was kind of the one that I was more leaning towards. If I had to pick another one, it would be a Mugato Gumato.
And that was mine.
I wasn't particularly my favorite episode.
Yeah.
There was character development, but there was just the 2 different plots just kind of worked weirdly together. And and then, of course, the Mugato were just I don't really care for them that much anymore.
I mean, it was a one-off, like very 60s-ish kind of alien that they did back in the original series. If I'm not mistaken, in beta canon, maybe it was in one of the New Frontier novels, they had a Mugato crew member of whatever show there was. I may be thinking of the wrong series.
Yeah.
But this,
to be fair, there's some fun Ferengi stuff that happens in it. So there is that.
But yeah, the Mugato sex scenes, that was a big thumbs down. That was something that at the time my co-hosts were definitely up in arms about. And I was like, I'm trying to stay positive. It was hard to stay positive about that. That was just not happening for me. All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about legacy of the show to the franchise. Sean, break it down for us.
I think there's so much fun. I think one of the things that I think it will be so fondly remembered for, in a looking back kind of way, is it was such a loving tribute to the 70s animated show. And
Agreed.
Although, more so kind of DS9 started to look back at the animated series and started to incorporate part of it in canon, things like Kor's ship, for example, it's still sort of, up until Lower Decks, the redheaded stepchild of the franchise, and this really, from the opening notes of the theme tune, it said, no, that happened too, maybe you don't watch it every day, but that's just one of the things. Because
Right.
the one thing Lower Decks really did is Lower Decks is a love letter to Star Trek. Past as future as it could, I guess, because we don't know what's coming in the future, and certainly present. And but it was done like the things that we've just listed as our slightly weaker episodes. There was no bad episodes of Lower. There was no episode where I just kind of went, "Oh, I'm going to skip that on a rewatch."
Yeah.
Like there was just some stuff landed better than others, but everything was done with we really care about what we're doing, because there is, I suppose, one could be forgiven for thinking that, oh, it's a silly gag animated, comedy show. There's who really cares? And of course, the person who says that has never watched the show.
No doubt.
And it treated its cameos well. Going back to
Mhm.
season 1, I mean, J.G. Hertzler was the first guest star.
Yes.
With
It was the RPG the Klingon RPG, right?
That was later, but he
that was
appeared
a bit
as an
late.
alien.
He was
I think.
in
There you
He
go.
appeared as an alien in season 1, but the first major character cameo was Riker and Troy in the final
Right.
finale. I
The
think.
Titan.
Actually, Joe, I agree. I know Q was in season 1, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
'cause
Q was
like
a little
one-liner.
gag at the end.
Yeah. So, but it treated it well, because they could have done episode 1. Here's Riker and Troy, and we would have been told, do we need to care about this cast then? Because what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the next cameo. And they didn't do that. And they established their own story in its own bonkers world. I mean, episode 1, scene 1, Mariner cuts Boimler's leg open with a batleth. Welcome to Star Trek Lower
A
Decks.
rusty batleth at that.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah. It was like, get him to the doctor now. And you know what? Some things I didn't expect to, when I was watching season 1, I didn't expect to sit there and go, I'm feeling emotions about these characters as the show goes on. And I did. And I was not happy when I heard it was coming to an end. But the way it's ended is so open. I mean, this show in its format might be over, but the story is not over.
Right. Yeah, because this was, and I think I remarked it last time we were talking about the finale, is that they set a course for what'll essentially be more adventures, because they're going on, but they brought the voyage they were on to a nice little pause and then started chapter 2. That's
this for out of Star Trek finales, this was the most all good things, where
Right.
you wrap something up, but then it's not done.
Right.
Whereas all of the other shows is we done now.
Voyager, we got home. DS9, the war's over, and Cisco has realized his destiny. Exactly.
Of course, Enterprise's finale. Moving on.
Nope, not happening. That is it. That comes up, and you just hear static. Nope, nothing going on.
Terra Prime and Demons.
Yeah, that's where I see it. Absolutely, nothing else ever happened ever. Peter, additional thought. Your thoughts about the legacy?
I think that this is one of those shows that's going to be looked on very fondly in the future, in part because, I mean, what Sean already said, this was a show that, hilariously, it's the 2 animated shows that really do this really well, but it really, really loves its source material and the universe that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
It pokes fun at it. It pokes at here's the weak parts in the fabric, and we all know that you see them, and we all know that you joke about them. So here, let's poke at them a little bit because it's hilarious.
Yeah, right.
But it also just but this is part of the canon. This is something that we all know that you love. And so we're going to bring it back, and we're going to celebrate it and do all these things with it. And so I think that's one of the things that Lower Decks is going to be really remembered for, aside from making it its own thing and being its own show and making its own characters that we really love and care about. But the fact that it took where it was and was just this is my thing, and I love this thing, and we know that you love this thing too, and we're just going to share it.
Yeah.
And that was something that this show did really, really well. And it's one of those things you don't see people who come in and hey, I don't like how they showed this character from I don't like how they showed Rom, or I don't like how they showed Riker or whatever. You don't really hear that because they did when they brought in Legacy, they really treated it well. And you can, even if you're not the biggest fan of the humor, you can feel the love for Star Trek bleed through when you have that moment in Embarrassment of Duplers where you have Boimler and Mariner being all sad in this little shit bar. Like this little shit pub off in the corner.
Right.
And
Oh,
it's
that's
like,
right.
well, what was this? Well, this was where Kirk and Spock went when they were really sad lower
Right.
deckers.
And they etched their names in the bar.
And they carved
Yeah,
their
exactly.
names into the bar. And so you just like have these little tips of the hat to the older show, or when you have like, oh, I call them those old scientists, you know, the OS, and they pull up a picture of the animated series.
Right.
So there's just a lot of there. That's one of the things that I think this show really, really carries over in its legacy is that it cares about its universe and its fans.
Right.
And obviously it's got its own characters and all the stuff that you already mentioned, but that's just something I wanted to highlight about one of the things that's really good about this show.
You know, for me, and again, you guys have touched so much, and this has been fantastic. But you know, it was a zany comedy, but again, walking that razor's edge between being super insanely inside baseball. Like remember the episode? I don't remember the name, where they are going to this collector who has died, and they've got a category. The category. I mean, that's where we got the giant,
his eyes wide open. Yeah.
We got the giant Spock skeleton, and we got all. Well, Sean looks like he wants to say something.
That was the day. Myself and Chris, right? So Chris manages Trek Culture, and he edits the ups and downs. That was the day myself and himself had to keep kind of reminding each other that we really get on very, very well, because we were so stressed. Because we would pause and we would be looking at thing, and we'd not notice the other 4 things in the frame. Like that was the one where it's like, oh, that one tested us for the Easter eggs. That one tested. But the end of it was great. We were delighted with something like 150 or something else.
Oh my god!
But it was incredible. Why is there a Nintendo Switch at the Collectors Guild? Copy of the Royale and the Collectors Guild. They're just like, kind of like, what else can we throw at the screen? It's all going in. It was both hilarious and heartbreaking as well.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I'm still tired.
Yeah, I believe it. All right. So to wrap up, what's the future for the characters? Where do you feel like organically they would pop in or combine with another show and survive on? So Sean, back to you.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
I think we've 2 most likely options, and one of them is a show that hasn't even been greenlit yet, which is Tawny Newsome and Justin Simeon's show.
Right.
Now, we know that okay, when I say we know, again, on purpose, it hasn't been greenlit. So there might not be a show. Obviously, that sounds very dour, and please ignore what I just said. But, but that sounds, because it's going to be lighthearted. It's going to be comedy there. Did I just lose connection again?
No, I'm still hearing you, and okay, I see you.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So that's going to be lighthearted comedy fare. So that would seem like the obvious place to slot these characters into, whether it's because we don't know what the format's going to be, whether they're animated on a screen or whether it's live action. Because there's been a lot of talk about live action. Mike McMahon himself has said Those Old Scientists was so much fun. We don't necessarily need to do a live action Lower Decks either. I mean, it has proved its concept. It works in the format that it's in. But the other one would be Starfleet Academy. You've got the EMH got to turn up. You can find a way. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's, and we have Rutherford's going to be teaching, cybernetics at the Academy in the 32nd century. Tendy's going to be teaching, so as in there is ways and means to do all of these things. If they're holograms, they're holograms. Time travel, why not? You know what I mean? You can have fun.
Right.
The thing is, everyone's still alive. You know what I mean?
Right.
You play with it that way.
Right. And even if they weren't, it's just further back in time.
Yeah. Death means nothing unless your name is Dax.
It's like watching, Star Wars, the Disney stuff recently. Only person ever killed by a lightsaber, Qui-Gon. Everybody else lives. It's the same damn thing. Peter.
Future of Lower Decks characters. I mean, if excuse me, if Legacy does manage to get greenlit, I think that would be a fun spot for these characters to make an appearance. I wouldn't think that you would want them on as regulars,
right?
Simply because you then have to tweak the shenanigans to fit live action,
right?
Which is a little hard, because like the conceit of Lower Decks is like these events happen, but maybe not exactly the same way because maybe we have an unreliable narrator in either Mariner or who knows, maybe Peanut Hamper's telling the story.
Right.
But hopefully not. But well, either way, because it's animated, things always get, exaggerated because that's just the nature of the medium.
Right.
So you would have to tweak it, tone it down for live action. So it would be really weird to try to do like a full length thing with these characters just because of how we're used to seeing them. You could do it. If you wrote it really, really well, you could do it. Mm-hmm. But it would be a balancing act.
I hear you.
And so bringing them into Legacy would be really fun if they could pull it, because they are around at the same time. This is just a few years later.
Right. Well, I had noted, so it's about 15, 20 years later, but it couldn't be like, hey, we flew through a rift and jumped forward 15 years or something happened or this and that.
I mean, the Enterprise crew was on the same ship. Like the original Enterprise crew was on the same ship for like 20 something years. So I mean,
exactly.
The fact that like you could have them all ranked up, but on the same ship is not out of the realm of
right. Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, Chekhov went from an ensign to a commander by the end of the film, still being on having left for a little while, but then having come back. Yeah, for me, I mean, would there be a possibility, though, tonally they're a little different, for some kind of joint animated project where we see Prodigy come back and maybe we plug in the Lower Decks characters there. Obviously it's a little bit of the kid stuff versus adult stuff, but, or could it just be one big fun animated film where you're bringing in all kinds of different characters? Yeah, so it's a possibility, but I think, to your point, Sean, and Peter, you as well, Those Old Scientists showed us that it's an easy Star Trek concept because you can do the timey-wimey Doctor Who stuff and bring them in, and you can have anybody anywhere, and it's no big deal.
And I think even if we take a page out of Prodigy for Academy, if they wanted to do like a training hologram, holographic incident where you're just like, and now we're on the bridge of the Cerritos. This is how you handle a situation that goes completely out of control. Like, that could be a fun little bottle episode if they were to do that.
Right. It still exists. Awesome. All right. Well, we put a pin in Lower Decks for now. As far as us, we will come back around to talk about this show many years down the line. We'll go through it all again. Or it may come up in a random episode, which is, as regular listeners know, when we don't have new content to talk about in segment one, we use our rolling of the dice system to pick a random episode to talk about, which actually we'll have next week as well. So, all right. Well, moving on from that, it's time to talk about Deep Space Nine. And Sean, you mentioned in particular, there's a favorite episode in this mix for you, which we will get to in a moment. But I'll kick it off with some. Dun dun! I have one of those too. I should bring that down here and just stab it in the wall. Have it hanging in the background. It's a letter opener, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've got.
I've got a full size batleth over there.
I do.
but
Well,
I'm-
you can see it, but look at the very back wall. That's where my classic foam one is, kind of jammed under that poster.
My brother has the Roddenberry metal one.
Oh my goodness! Ouch!
It's a nice one.
Okay.
All
I
right.
feel
Well, let's
really
kick it
at
up.
a disadvantage here. I do not have a batleth. What I'm going to say is I do have a me. If that
Oh,
helps. I have a
Oh,
little
baby.
crochet. It's the only thing I have that's possibly as cool as a bloody batleth. That's amazing that you have batleths.
that is delightful. All right, let me kick it off with what is one of the most delightful episodes of DS9, hands down. Episode 7 of the season is You Are Cordially Invited. David Livingston handling the directing chores, written by the incomparable Ronald D. Moore. Everybody knows how much I love him. From November of 1997, Worf's plans for a traditional Klingon wedding hinge on Martok's demanding wife, Sorella, accepting Dax into their family. Definitely sounds like a sitcom plot. And in some ways it absolutely is. Sean, how are you feeling about this episode?
I love it. I absolutely right. So tiny bit of Sean history. Way back all the way in the 90s, which I remember far too clearly. My dad used to work for what is effectively Blockbuster Video, but in Ireland, and used to get the test copies of video cassettes. So
Those
this
big
was the very
tapes.
this
I
was
re-
the
I-
first one I got. Was You Are Cordially Invited, and Resurrection was the very first one I got. So it's got such a special place.
I remember, quick aside, my only time visiting Ireland, and Ireland is going back about 3 generations where my family came from. I went with my mom and my brother when I was in college in 1997. I remember seeing those big tapes that you guys got, and they were newish episodes, where we didn't have anything like that back in the States. Yeah. So, all right, back to you. Sorry.
But no, and so that means I nearly wore it. So I've seen these 2 episodes a lot because I used to just watch the tape again and again and again. I mean, it's got everything. You've got O'Brien and Bashir hanging over the hot coals going, I've had a vision. I'm going to kill Worf. Yeah, kill Worf. Kill Worf. No food for those on the path to Kalhaya. Just everything about the episode works. You described it, Bernie, there. It's a sitcom, this episode. It is a pure joke. It works so well. Everyone is on their A game. Aaron Eisenberg came up with that dance on the spot, which I think is hilarious. Terry Farrell. Yeah, just and of course, to this day, people remember Jadzia Dax's wedding dress. Because it's an incredible design. I know, I think it's a few years ago now, but at a convention, she got fully done up in the makeup in the wedding dress. She came out in that as well, which was incredible. And I think it's Shannon Cochran, I think, plays Sorella. And again, to perfection. To absolute perfection. In a way, I'm glad she never came back, so we have this perfect little size.
Yeah,
in another way, I'm like, give me a spin-off. You know what I mean? Like, she was so good at it. And also it's got just moment after moment after moment, great Cisco and Dax moments. Because for all of the times that we were told they had such a long friendship, and this more so, the earlier years are a bit more guilty of this. You didn't see it an awful lot. But this was a great example of it. And how, they're just cutting through it as friends do.
Right.
Right. So I love this episode. Absolutely. And then at the end of it, now? Do we go now? Not yet, Doctor. Now, Doctor. Ah!
And then it ends with just the thumping.
Yeah. And you just hear the thumping. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Peter.
I'm not sure I can really add a whole lot. It's a fantastically hilarious episode. There's lots of great stuff here. I think that the whole everybody in the hot cave is just really funny. You almost have Alexander pass out. I have almost everyone pass out, actually. And Martok is like, well, if you weak humans are done with this, you don't have to do it.
Right. Oh,
we're going to keep on going. That's an insult.
so passive aggressive.
And they just keep on going. One little costuming note that I think is kind of fun is we have they're a modified version of the TNG dress uniform.
Yes.
And they have the ribbed shoulders from the newer uniform, and they have a belt. So it's just a fun little in between
And
costume.
it's the belt, because I don't have the top anymore because I got rid of it, but I have the belt from the flag officer's uniform that I had somebody overseas make for me. It was not cheap, and I'm waiting to get the jacket again. But it looked like it was that same cool emblem. But yeah, I'm Sean. You'll find that Peter and I are very serious about cosplay. I don't cosplay when we do this because it's too hot in this room, but we're just like, we're very on point when we do something. And
I've got a monster maroon now, so
that is Mother made, and she made it correctly, and I keep begging to have her make one for me. Maybe all things.
I want dollar bill. I want to do the shut up and take my money bit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, but yeah, no, I thought that was really bizarre. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. How is it that in the very few Alexander appearances, and this is like one of the last ones, if not the last one we get, that he's endlessly more likable a character as a bumbling adult than he is as a precocious tween? Not to put down Alexander Bonsall, who is obviously great on Family Ties as well, but Mark Warden, I believe is the name of the actor who played Alexander, and he's great because he comes on and he's really like we were talking about last episode in that father thing where he was making life hard for himself, to this where he's a great comic relief, but he's also very sweet, and you see these bonding moments with him and Worf. I love father-son stuff. If you listen to our Patreon and how we talk about Battlestar Galactica, the Adama father and son stuff always really gets to me. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, but I liked this episode overall because we had been through life and death and life and death and life again in the last 6 episodes, with that waiting to, killing our way back to get back to DS9, that this was like, let's just take a pause and have something that we can enjoy that doesn't hurt so much. That was super valuable about this, without a doubt. So cool. Sean, I'm going to let you take the next one because I feel the love. If you want to read the summary and then just jump right on in, it's yours.
Cool. Okay. Resurrection. The Mirror Universe counterpart of Kira's dead love, Vedic Bareil, takes her hostage on Deep Space Nine as he is running from the evil alliance of his universe. Look, the episode's fine. Okay, right. What's my problem with this episode? Right. Okay, first of all, Philip Anglin, love him. Great actor, really enjoy, particularly in, the season 2 when he's introduced, and he's actually, although it's his last episode, second last episode, life support, he's very good in that. Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing against him. Bareil is like, do you know when you've done the dishes and the water that's still in the sink? That's Bareil.
He's dirty dishwater, is what you're saying.
That sort of soapy water, that's the character of Bareil. So where I will give props is that this is not that Bareil. This is Mirror Universe. And you can see, or at least I feel, Anglin has a lot of fun kind of playing same but different. But for me, it just doesn't come together. Not because I don't think Kira deserves a love story. She absolutely does. And it's always fun seeing Kira's plural. But I just like I have to think a censor would be tripped if the intendant turns up on the stage. Something's got to be like, kind of, hi, Cisco, just to warn you, the computer is ready.
Here I am.
Kira's, is this not something that, or, and then it's, kind of, it's just sort of, and it might be where it falls in the season as well, because there's very few episodes of season 6 that I think aren't as strong. Overall, I think it's a whopper of a season. And this to me just kind of felt like we couldn't fit this script into season 5,
right?
Or and then you definitely couldn't fit it into season 7. Well, they wouldn't have known that at the time. It just feels like kind of someone had this script lying around. So again, I feel bad. I'm not trying to have a go at the writer or nothing like that. You can tell how much I'm just like, I just think it's dull. I'm sorry. I just think it's a dull episode that comes after the fantastically fun You Are Cordially Invited, and just before an episode I've watched dozens of times as well, which is so full of life and so full of expression. And then you've got I'm literally watching it going like, I thought we killed him a couple of seasons ago. I thought we were done with this.
Right.
And yeah.
Dull as Dishwater. That might end up being the next name of the new name of the episode. Peter, you talk while I change it in the document.
I'm so sorry if this is your favorite episode. By
Oh
the
my
way.
God, who could
No.
say that?
It's not. This is one of those episodes where I love the mirror universe, but this is one of those episodes where it starts to feel a little tired. And which sucks because I like the shenanigans you can get up to, like you said, the same but different. Although I've never been the biggest fan of the Intendant as a character. I don't know why, but just not. And so I think that's part of what makes this episode a little rough. Like, it's got some fantastic performances. You can tell it was directed by LeVar Burton, so there's nothing wrong with it structurally. It's just, I think a lot of it just has to do with the subject matter. We're just kind of like,
Yeah, why? There's a whole lot of why. Yeah,
it's more fun when you go into the mirror universe and do crap there. Like when we tool back to it again in A Mirror Darkly in Enterprise, one of the best episodes of that series.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just they'd been doing too much of the mirror universe and just like, hey, let's do it again, and they didn't really know where exactly they wanted to go with it, other than to bring it back.
You said a very good thing there about the shenanigans of the mirror universe. There are none in this episode. There are no shenanigans. It's dull. Okay, yeah, we got this up, but that's it. That's what I think it's missing. There's the fun of the mirror universe that is completely lacking in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. You know, this is the double-edged sword of the old system of 26 episodes in a season, right? There's going to be some duffers. I mean, this was written by Michael Taylor, so this wasn't a slush pile. This was a genuine effort by someone who was a regular on the writing staff that just didn't land because it, as you guys have both said, did not evoke anything that was special about the concept of the mirror universe. Totally different characters and this thing and that thing, and the struggle of life and death, you know, like we saw back in season 4 with they built their own Defiant, and that struggle of that, mirror shattered or through the looking glass. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, it really brought kind of nothing to the table, and it took a character that we liked, loved, whatever it is, turned him around, and then it just didn't land. So they've got to have him, you don't appreciate the great if you don't get the dullest Dishwater, which is where we landed. Oh my gosh. All right, let me Peter, number 9 is for you.
All right, episode 9, Statistical Probabilities, directed by Anson Williams, story by Pam Pietroforte, teleplay by Renee Echevarria, aired on November 22nd of 97. Bashir attempts to reintegrate genetically engineered misfits into society, but they are asked by Starfleet to become a think tank where they provide insightful analysis of upcoming Dominion peace talks. Shenanigans ensue.
Shenanigans. Peter, take us through the shenanigans.
Not gonna lie, I didn't get through this one exactly, being sick, but
it's okay.
This was a fun episode where we have where we delve into Bashir's genetic engineering just a little bit, not necessarily his backstory because we already had that, but more like, how do you handle such a thing? Are there other genetically engineered humans in the Federation? Like, because aside from Bashir, we hadn't really heard much about that. The only time that we'd really heard about it was Khan, and it was in a negative connotation.
Not a big thumbs up happy story.
Generally, genetic engineering was always looked down on, and we got that in the episode where we found out with Bashir. But in this case, we actually have some where we get a gaggle of folks who have various disabilities, other things going on, and so they have they do all sorts of random stuff, like Memory Alpha is telling us the catatonia, bipolar, and mania, and other things. But you have some really fun characters, especially when they show up again later.
Right.
Admiral Patrick.
That's a stupid question.
That's a stupid question.
That is a stupid question. That's enough, Admiral. That is okay.
Mhm.
So there's lots of fun things with these characters because they're able to look at things a little bit differently. They're able to figure out a little bit more of what the Dominion is doing. And I think in this episode is where we begin to see more of Damar's just collapse,
Right,
or at least
right.
the seeds of it. He hasn't
yeah.
he hasn't done it yet. He completely falls apart in season 7.
Oh
But
yeah,
this is where we begin to see like the
cracks.
the cracks,
Like
the
he's
stress
cracking.
marks.
Yeah.
Damar doesn't want to deal with the Dominion. He doesn't like them, but he's kind of doing it because, well, he got put in charge because Dukat
Right.
fell apart.
Whoops.
Yeah, I think someone else should take it because that's all that's coming to my brain.
Okay, Sean, please.
I was for kind of what you were saying as well. I love that we're getting another side to what genetic engineering does to people. Because we saw, it wasn't really specified originally whether the genetic engineering made Khan psychologically the way that he was, or was he a despot who then suddenly gained super strength? Bashir, we had 5 seasons of Bashir before it was revealed to Alexander Siddig that he was genetically engineered as well. I mean, he found out the Monday before they started filming, so there was no preamble.
Surprise.
He wasn't a fan either.
And then we go into this, and we find, because as presented, you kind of catch the argument of, what I mean, like, what's wrong with genetic engineering? As long as we just don't kill a bunch of people, ruining it for everyone. Whereas here it's like, no, it's not guaranteed that whatever the type of engineering you get, you will just, be super strong or super fast or super smart or whatever it is. And you get 4, I find them to be 4 very different characters.
Mhm.
Yep.
You got, I want to get this right, Jack, Lauren, Patrick, and Serena.
You got it.
Sounds right.
And they're all extreme in their own way. And Jack is this sort of amoral, leader of the group because he's appointed himself the leader of the group.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he is a child.
Right.
And can be very much have his wrist slap and sort of puts his head down. Now, he might be going off to plan his next bit of mischief, but I think for him it's always mischief, because I don't think there's any...
Right. Malice.
Yeah, I don't think there's malice in him. I don't think that's a thing for him. It's just like, I'm going to do things. And then you see this, against Bashir, who is, quote unquote, a functioning member of society, and there's that great scene that feels like, I don't know, it feels bigger than it's presented, which is them sitting in Cisco's quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And Bashir talks about the "there but for the grace of God go I," and
right,
he almost
nailed it.
gets into a disagreement with Worf, and because you didn't get that in Dr. Bashir, I presume, because there wasn't room for it in that episode.
No.
I mean, that was just about the bait and switch. Okay, cool. He's better at darts. Okay, I mean, I love that episode. Don't get me wrong, but no room for exploration. We kind of get it here, which I think is fabulous, and then you see him. He's so excited to meet the people like me. I'm a viewer going, but you're not alike.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jack is about his mischief, and Serena is catatonic, and Lauren is presented as this hypersexualized character, and Patrick as this very timid character. But in universe, we're all the same. We're just presented differently. And of course, you'd be like, think about when we met our first other Trekkie.
Right. Right.
Oh, come here, my friend. It's brilliant. It's so nice to meet you. And eventually you start to go, oh, we have some things in common, and maybe we don't have some things in common.
Right. True.
And he gets caught up in it. And it takes Cisco, as Avery Brooks is the king of slapdowns. It's like, kind of, I will listen to your advice on how to win the war. I'm not listening to your advice on how to lose the war. And then it goes to O'Brien going, you might be as smart, but you might not be as smart as you think you are. It's just really, really powerfully introspective episode. And also at the end, it doesn't end with, all right, there is a scene where, they, believing that they can shorten the war and save billions of lives, so absolutely, the good guys, right, are going to go and give the fleet movements Dominion. Like, no, that's the bad thing. No, don't do that. And it doesn't end with them in a cell.
Right.
It's not about that. It's not about, it's about, like, Everyone got a bit caught up in the moment. This is what this can do to people.
Mm-hmm.
This is fascinating and requires more exploration, which is why we should have got more than one episode. But listen, I was glad.
Right. Agreed. Totally. Boy, I mean, you guys have really kind of said it all. It is a great, I do love DS9's ability to take us out of the mission of the week, somewhat sameness that we got in TOS and TNG, which of course we all love in its own way, but then to just drill down on other aspects of things that happen outside of Starfleet. Not all of the Federation life is Starfleet. It's a chunk for these people here and there. What's happening on all these other 150 member worlds that exist within the Federation going across 2 quadrants? There's so much more to explore, which Star Wars is doing a great job of it these days, because they have, different time periods, different planets, different focuses of this and that, where it's great to see Star Trek dip outside of the Starfleet part. Hopefully that's what the Section 31 movie gives us, is a look at something that is not Starfleet. So yeah, I enjoyed it for all of the reasons that you guys described. But yeah, them not ending up inside of a cell, that was overly generous, because they were planning to commit the highest of high treason, and they were like, oh okay, well, they just don't know what they're doing, okay, we'll just send them back. And yeah, that seems somewhat surprising, but it would have been a grim end to this, and would have been kind of a bad message. So yeah, don't really care for that. Okay, let's move along to, I couldn't have had more fun, and there was a great meme that I shared on socials yesterday that came from this that you may or may not have seen. But episode 10 is The Magnificent Ferengi. Chip Chalmers handling the directing. You got Ira and Hans Beimler writing this bad boy from the end of 1997. Quark mounts a rescue mission when his mother, Iska, is captured by the Dominion, and Grand Nagasek offers a reward for her return. Guest starring Michigan connection of Iggy Pop, who is from Detroit, just like myself. Absolutely fantastic. Sean.
I mean, like, if you just want a laugh, this is such a good episode. I mean, I like Gala. He's awful, but I really like Gala. Obviously Iggy Pop is fantastic. I love Kevon. I love that they brought him back for as well. Ishka, there is no dud note in this episode. Crawling through the Jeffries tube, whatever you call it, Jeffries tubes on a Cardassian station, but crawling through the Jeffries tubes and popping out in Cisco's office. We must take in the wrong warning.
Can I help you?
Yeah, it's so good, and like the gentle insinuation that by the end of the episode, and possibly even in Covenant at season 7, Kevon's still walking into that wall.
I never thought about that. Clunk.
And it's just like, I just love it, and everyone is just playing a blinder, and of course Jeffrey Combs as Brunt, just always, fine, I'll just get in my ship and leave. Man knows how to deliver dialogue.
Right.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
Oh my gosh. Peter.
I love this episode. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Most Ferengi episodes tend to like up the ridiculous level, because you can. Why not? But there's just so many ridiculous things here. The fun thing, just kind of to your point, like, this is not Starfleet at all.
Right.
This is the Ferengi just doing whatever they're trying to do badly. It's like,
how do they do it? How do they do it?
Prisoner exchange, but
yeah,
in the worst possible way, because we don't know how to do this.
It's gonna be a mess.
And it's just funny where you get. I don't remember. Is this the first time we see Gala physically?
No, we had Gala in Business as Usual, the weapons.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like the first time that we see like all of these characters that we've met throughout the show. They all come together. It's obvious. The name of it is obviously a play on the Magnificent Seven, which is just a stitch and a half.
Yeah.
Fun fact: Star Trek Online actually brought all these people back to do an episode in their DS9 arc, to do something almost exactly the same. And you play as each one of them, and they actually did the meme with Gala and the glasses and the explosion behind him. It was really stupid, but amazingly stupid.
Oh my gosh!
So, but there's just so much about this that, like, like the line here: a child, a moron, a failure, and a psychopath. Quite a little team you've put together. What do you want, Brunt? I'm here to sign up. Like, there's just so much ridiculousness
like,
in this episode.
I'm in.
Like,
it's like
just,
it reminds you of Deadpool's X-Force in Deadpool
yeah,
2.
it's very similar.
Just a planet of functional idiots.
Yeah, or like later when it's like, well, what are we gonna do? We'll just use Ferengi, then we'll all die.
Right, exactly.
As I
my God.
recall, all 12 Ferengi were slaughtered.
Yeah. It's just it's such a goofy episode, and you're getting Ishka back. Like,
Yeah.
so you have some wonderful performances from everybody.
And she's still Ferenging her way through it. She's trying to sell
She's still
Iggy Pop's
annoying
character,
them.
like, yeah, you get this cream. It is very smooth for your face. And yeah,
she's already pestering the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar, and they kind of want to get rid of her anyway.
Yeah, right.
Because there's just, we just see this from the Dominions aspect. The Ferengi annoy everyone, and that's just what they do.
They've got no fans, exactly.
Yeah, like Keevan's famous last words: "I hate Ferengi."
I know. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the meme, by the way, if you didn't see it, is the scene where Keevan is laying dead on the table and all the Ferengi are standing around him, and the text says, "Wow, the live action Snow White looks weird."
Very good.
But yeah, it's all been said. The only misnomer I have in here is that Nog probably shouldn't be wearing his Starfleet uniform. It's probably a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
Bad optics, because then it makes it look like what's going on is Starfleet related, which it was not. Plus, glad he had PTO saved up, being that he was an ensign and it was wartime, that he could get away for a couple of days. Seems a little weird, but you throw all of that out the window.
Never underestimate Uncle Quark giving a nice little discount on root beer.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to give up his vacation days for this little adventure. But yeah, one of the, arguably, I would say the most enjoyable of any Ferengi episode. I think that's where this lands. Okay, Peter, number 11 is yours. Let's get serious.
All right. Number 11, Waltz, directed by René Auger-Benoit, written by Ron Moore, aired on January 3rd of 98. An attack on the the Starfleet vessel carrying Gul Dukat to a hearing for war crimes, as is right and just, as well as Captain Sisko, who is to testify at the hearing, leaves the two of them stranded on a deserted planet together.
I like Desert Moon. Let's go with that.
It's a desert moon.
It's a desert
shenanigans ensue, kind of shenanigans, but also just intense characters.
It's so intense. Oh my gosh, Sean.
Arguably Marco Limo's finest hour.
Agreed.
And there's a lot to choose from when it comes to like Dukat episodes. I rewatched this again very recently, and just, I mean, this is dark, you know, which it was going to be. It's about, you know, we're on our way to war crime, you know, like war crime court. You know, it was never going to be a comedy episode, nor should it have been, because that is this episode, I think, would be one of the best examples of Star Trek ever tackling an ongoing story arc, because this only works. This is a fabulous, you could make a stage show out of this. This is a fabulous two-hander. It's incredible. And I think if you adjust the script a tiny little bit, you can do it as a standalone.
Right.
But really, like, this pays off so much of Dukat betraying the Alpha Quadrant, you know, Dukat, and getting all of his, I mean, you believe that he believes what he's saying, you know, like, because if he didn't, if there was any doubt in there, if there was any room that Sisko could get under that armor, it wouldn't work as well as it does. There, like, you know, like, there is no armor. This is Dukat laid bare.
Right.
Like, so if we jump right to the end of the episode, for example, you have a Starfleet captain. One of the funniest things about Sisko is just like, he says all the things Starfleet captains are never supposed to say.
Right.
But, you know, he says, you know, it's either him or me, which is about as far away from Gene Roddenberry's ideals of Starfleet as you can get. And it makes perfect sense in the context of these two characters, in the context of, you know, the Federation Alliance versus the Cardassians versus the Dominion. And also, yeah, like, if you don't kill him, he's gonna cause trouble, which of course he does.
Take him off the board. Like Palpatine, you know, like Mace Windu swinging that sword. Yeah, he's too dangerous to be kept alive. That's it.
100%. And then it's very. I mean, it's not meant to be a comfortable watch, but it's very uncomfortable the way he speaks about the Bajorans and the way he
Right.
speaks about the occupation.
Right.
And obviously, in recent years, it becomes a lot more prescient as well. But also, there's so many historical parallels.
Right.
They knew what they were. Ron Moore. I mean, Ron Moore's an incredible writer. He knew what he was
The
doing
most. Yeah.
when he was writing these words, because there is not one person alive who will not identify in some way with some of the things that are being dropped here, which
Right.
also makes it a difficult pitch. Like because you often get asked, like, what episode would you show people to get them into Star Trek? Not Waltz. As incredible as it is, and it is like a powerhouse of acting and writing, I'd watch this and be like, I don't want to watch this show.
Yeah, exactly.
What's this Lower Deck show you were telling me about?
Yeah, exactly. That sounds like fun. Yeah, this is. Yeah, it's not fun. It is literally not fun, but it is very, very necessary. I just. I mean, wow. Yeah, you get Dukat was saying, "Oh no, I tried to save lives," and and then he just is becoming more and more unhinged. And he's like, "I hate Bajorans. I hate their wrinkly noses and their ass backwards religion. I would have killed every single one of them if I had the chance." I'm like, well, 15 minutes ago, you were like, I don't know why they don't like me because I did this thing and that thing. And I started, Taco Tuesday and Casual Fridays. And, exactly. He's like Bill Lumbergh from Office Space. You know what I mean? Where he's just literally, he's literally his hooves. Like you said, he's just so evil. Oh my goodness. Peter.
I don't know a whole lot I can add here. You guys have talked about most of it. I will say that this is one of those episodes that really this shows where Star Trek does a good job of showing what the bad guy is about without beating you over the head about it.
True.
But also showing you he is a bad dude, but he didn't think he was a bad dude.
Right.
And that's something that this is going to be a hot take, but I think that that's something that a lot of writing right now doesn't quite get. And so this is something that DS9 and Ron Moore do very, very well. We as the audience know Dukat sucks. He really does.
Oh, yeah. In every possible way.
He's Space Hitler, for lack of a better analogy.
Space Hitler.
I mean, maybe not quite, but basically. And so we all know that he's terrible. He's a horrible person. But then we get inside this guy's head.
Literally, right.
And you're just like...
delusions.
It's like, how could you believe that? Why would you believe that? But he did. And it's sincere. And that's something that the writing is masterful here.
Agreed.
Is because it shows Dukat believes he's in the right. And that's the scary part. That's
the definition of evil, isn't it?
But that's what makes him that's one of the reasons that Dukat is a good villain, is that he's not a caricature. He's not a straw man. He is someone who believes they're doing the right thing. We completely disagree on what that is, but he believes he's doing the right thing, and then just horrific things with that justification. And so it's really, really well done of fleshing this character out. And I think it's not just this episode, but this episode is one of the reasons why Dukat is always at the top of at least my lists of the best Star Trek villains. We've got our memorable ones who are really, really well done, who have 1-2 episodes, Khan is always going to be near the top. He's a really well done villain, but the most fleshed out, the most real, I would say, is Gul Dukat. And this episode is one of those pivotal moments as to why.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wow. Good stuff. Okay. Well, I'm glad how we're going light, dark, light, because now we're back to having some fun. Episode 12 is Who Mourns for Morn? Victor Lobel doing the directing. And we have a name that I'm not familiar with, so maybe this is a slush pile. Mark Garrett O'Connell. From January of 98. Morn is killed in an ion storm, and Sisko informs... God, excuse me. You're making me sick, Peter. I'm getting a little clumped in the throat. Informs Quark that Morn left his entire estate to him, but Quark has a little competition. What, Sean?
I mean, we needed this after Waltz. We definitely needed, kind of bring it up. And it's so silly, and because of course, Quark getting involved with shady characters, right? It's a Tuesday, but
It's
but
Tuesday. Shady character
Morn
Tuesday.
being this enormously important character in this, a small criminal empire, but still a criminal empire all the same. And more and more people turning up. Morn's ex-wife, but of course, it reminds me of the gag in that movie Step Brothers. No, not Step Brothers. Sorry, The Other Guys. And Will Ferrell is of course married to Eva Mendes in that movie, and Mark Wahlberg's character is like,
What? Excuse me?
this is a bit. You're having me up.
Yeah.
It's very like that, and
Yeah.
Quark's breakdown. It's just gold. It's just worthless gold. And it's dumb. It's low stakes, and it would have been so bad if Morn had spoken. They ended up.
Yeah.
They understood the character of Morn, and they understood that the whole point is he doesn't speak, and it's brilliant. Yeah, I
Right.
loved it. It's
how they reverse talk it backwards, like, oh God, I just was happy to have Morn shut up,
Or they always make those lines, and it's
Yeah,
so
exactly. Morn ran out screaming onto the promenade, buck naked. We're all gonna die. That was. Oh, Peter.
This one is just so ridiculous. It's hilarious. There's not a lot to say other than it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
I will make one canon point just because I always have to make these. Morn is supposed to have hair originally as a thing that they say in this episode. So there's one thing that just keeps popping up with Illyrians when they show up in later shows like in Prodigy and such on, where they don't have any hair, and I always this episode just sticks in my brain. I'm like,
they all have latinum in their second stomach. I guess
so.
Maybe it's some kind of a cultural rite of passage.
Maybe, but it's also really funny that Morn is keeping latinum in his stomach. It's like, well, how are you going to pay for this? Spits it out. There you go.
Most
Bill, yeah.
Most people aren't fired up to take vomit as payment, but in this case, it ends up working out.
Yeah, but this is just a ridiculous episode. You have yet another funeral in the bar. Like, Quark, is there anywhere else that might be a little bit more normal to do this?
It's akin to doing phaser tests in front of the warp core on the Enterprise.
I've never not find that funny. Yeah.
They have literally 1,000 different rooms on the Enterprise D, 42 decks. Find somewhere else to do your phaser test instead of pointing it at the engine of the ship, which will explode and kill us all.
Yeah.
But it's the set we had. It keeps things cheap.
I just find it really funny though that's gosh, because like all the funerals that we've had happen in the bar. The wedding happening in the bar, that makes sense. But
right.
Sure.
I mean, have it in the Bajoran. Maybe the Bajorans are not like cool renting out the temple space for that kind of thing, unless it's
small. So
yeah, exactly. Well, it's the biggest set they got. What a blast! I love it because it gives us enough characterization about Morn without taking like Sean was saying, without taking it too far. That he doesn't have to, they don't have to break the thing that makes the character great. And they pull it off. So my hat's off to, again, the writer of this episode, whose name I don't recognize, and I have to dig in and look who exactly they are and if they did other
4 episodes in the past.
Okay, gotcha. Well, there you go. Like I said, I'm familiar with the big names, the Iras and the Robert Hewitt Wolf, and of course the the indispensable Ron Moore, my hero. But yeah, some of these smaller ones I miss sometimes. So yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, in the spirit of keeping it high, low, high, low, high, we're back to one of the most influential episodes of the series. Peter.
Episode 13, Far Beyond the Stars, directed by Avery Brooks. Story by Mark Scott Zicree, teleplay by Ira Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler, aired on February 7th of 98. As Sisko considers leaving Starfleet due to the destruction of Captain Swafford's ship, the Cortez, he has a vision of himself as a science fiction writer in the 1950s. That doesn't do it justice at all, but there's your summary.
Exactly. Well, for the effective justice commentary, we go over to Sean. Take us away.
In a way, what can I say about this episode that hasn't been said many times by many more intelligent people? It's dreadful. It's just awful, start to finish. It's so... Did your faces? No, it is... it is...
Edit that out.
No. It is obviously it's one of Star Trek's finest hours, to the point where it's now almost cliched to say, "Well, what's one of the best episodes of Star Trek?" Oh, Far Beyond the Stars. You
Mhm.
know, but for a reason. Because I remember a long time, and it's a long time ago now. I saw a very silly argument against the quality of this episode, which was
Blasphemy.
the only way Star Trek could deal with racism is by going into the past, because I think this was very much in a, Obama was still president. Have you ever heard this term post-racial?
I'm not sure that I have. No.
It was, I'm massively summarizing here, but basically this belief that after Obama was elected, racism went away.
Oh,
And this
boy.
review was happening at this point.
Nope.
And it was saying, yeah, sure, Star Trek couldn't do it. They had to go into the past because, racism has, been fading away forever. That aged well, didn't it?
That
and
age great. Thanks.
it was, of course, talking about, historical racism, and historical sexism as well, with the character of K.C. Hunter, D.C. Fontana. And yet it still felt up to date. Like, it felt like this could be happening 2 doors down.
Mhm.
This idea of, I mean, well, actually, DS9 itself, when it was announced that oh my god, the lead of your show is going to be a person of color. Oh, I don't know if that will ever work, or kind of, because kind of, he's not Kirk or Picard, because this was the idea of what the future looked like, and obviously there's loads and loads of examples where that hasn't been the case, but and then I think it was it was a swing. It
Mhm.
could have flopped because the audience, we believe and we hope, and a lot of the times we're given a lot of reasons to hope, that Trekkies tend to have their eyes open, and they tend to side with the people who are quite obviously being persecuted and the people who are quite obviously being run down. So I do believe that a large proportion of the audience will be looking at this, with the, yes, maybe I would look inside. What am
Mhm.
I doing that's might be contributing to this, and or even just on a completely surface level, what am I upset about? Am I upset that Captain Sisko is sad, or am I upset because a writer was not able to publish their story because of the color of their skin?
Yeah.
There's things that, as I've grown up, I've learned an awful lot more about the historical context of the episode as well, and it was so clever and so powerful and so heavy. I mean, this is not an episode I often rewatch because it's really hard to watch,
Yeah.
because you can't watch it and not go, that happened at that point, that happened at that point, that happened at that point. That, like, none of, like, with the obvious. Okay, take out the Star Trek of it if you like. None of this is a fiction. It's
Yeah.
all happened to someone at
It-
some point. There was other versions of the script where, for example, I think Michael Dorn's character in the past was going to be the one who was killed instead of Sirach Lofton's,
yeah.
which, I think, even though Jimmy and Benny weren't father and son in the past, I mean, you're watching Avery Brooks break down over Sirach Lofton being killed.
Mhm.
I do think that was the better
Oh
decision
yeah.
there.
Agreed.
and and it's just, and the casual, it seems over the top when you have Alimo and Combs playing those two cops, and how they're like, this kind of, we're just going to put you up and maybe we'll run you in for priors, and it seems like this is over the top. No, it isn't. There's not
Yeah.
one thing about that that's overstated. That happens today.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just, and it was Star Trek in 1998 going, we might be in the future and we might have warp drive, and a black man might be the captain of the station, but for the grace of, and it's, kind of like, it's heavy. It's heavy,
Yeah.
and infinitely, like, one of the best decisions that was made or included. I don't know. It could have been day one, like in writing the script or whatever, but making sure Brock Peters was in that episode.
Ugh.
Um, like, it's incredible across the board. But having like Joseph Sisko on DS9 at kind of beginning and the end, but also having that interaction,
Yeah.
in the past. Oh, chills.
Whew. No doubt. Peter.
I'm probably going to have a very controversial take on this. I don't like this episode. And it's not because of all of the social commentary. I understand all the reasoning for that. And it's for all the reasons that you said. There's good thing about this. I'm going to be very nitpicky about this. And everyone knows that I get this way sometimes. One of the reasons the main reason I don't like this episode is because of the meta. Because it makes it so that it's questionable whether or not Deep Space Nine is a real thing. So I know a lot of you are sitting in your chairs going like, "What the hell? What's wrong with you?" Fair enough. But one of the things when I watch media, and particularly because Star Trek is what it is, I grew up with it. It's always been part of my life. I can't think of a time when it wasn't.
Yeah, true. Same.
The fact that there's a moment where it's like, oh, this is completely fictional, and we're recognizing that. I didn't really appreciate that take. And it's not because like the fact of it's Benny Russell is writing it and all of that. That's fine. But because I think it's primarily because of the final shot that really bothers me, where you have Sisko staring into the distance and you have the reflection of Benny Russell in there. It's the idea of, am I just a reflection of the author? Is the author living through me vicariously in this other universe? Which is kind of where that episode tends to lean if you watch it literally. And so I don't like that because it's like, here's Deep Space Nine. All of these stories that you've seen before, these are all the fictional work of this guy who wrote 6 follow-ups, so seasons, which we are now in season 6.
Mm-hmm.
So he's written 6 follow-ups, 6 seasons of this show that you are now fictionally watching through his imagination.
It's Saint Elsewhere, which is was a show from the 80s that it ended, and it was all the dream of this autistic boy.
But it's just kind of like this Inception sort of thing, and I don't. For that reason, I don't like it. I get what it's trying to do. I think that there were some brilliant moves here. I agree with pretty much everything you said about it, but that's why I have a problem with it. And I know it's like very just like world builder, like DM sort of like pickiness, but
yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out. There's like, if you hear someone say they don't like this episode, it's not necessarily, don't immediately jump to, oh, this person is horrible. No, it could just be something as simple as this messes with the canon of the universe that it's set in. And so I just don't really like it for that reason. Wonderful performances, lots of stuff going on here. I just don't like it because of the meta.
I think you raise a really good point there, because I think there are episodes which are important, and you're almost worried to go like, if I say I don't like this, am I going to get absolutely dogpiled on now for saying I don't like this? Right. You know, and which is a fair worry. It happens. It is a fair worry, you know. But you should be dogpiled on, and we are going to organize a social media boycott of everything you do. No,
cool. Great. Jeez, I did it. I canceled myself.
I don't exist much on social media anyway, so good luck.
Very good.
We're going to make sure it's coming. No, because actually, funny, one thing that I think I agree with you is that there was an original idea for what you leave behind that would have ended the episode.
I did see that, and I hated that idea.
Ooh, that's horrible.
Because that is Saint Elsewhere.
That's Saint Elsewhere. Right. Yeah, that is, just invalidates everything you've seen, and that makes me very mad too. I'm with you there, because I don't have a whole lot else to add, because I absolutely see everything that Sean talks about in the more traditional appreciation of this. But yeah, I don't like these Saint Elsewhere. It's all inside Will Wheaton made a joke about that once on one of these. Hey, it happened in the 80s kind of shows, and he was one of the talking heads, and he said, "Oh, next it's a show that all took place inside my slider pen." You know what I mean? So it's just, I agree with you, Peter. I agree with you, Sean. and we will leave it there, because culturally significant, yes. As it fits in the framework of what Peter's talking about, I also don't like that. So, I'm so torn. Okay.
One last question for you.
Yes, please.
Question. The Strange New Worlds episode, The Elysian Kingdom, features a storybook written by Benny Russell. Discuss.
So he is real.
He's a real person, and this also is part of why I don't like this episode.
I will say he's a real, as you know what, I have to go back and watch that episode, because right now I can't find a rock to stand on to even discuss it.
I think for Elysian Kingdom it was more of an Easter egg of just like, hey, here's an author that we know was referenced in the past, and so
like Tracy Torme writing the Dixon Hill novels. Yes, exactly.
So
correct.
I think it's just an Easter egg, and they didn't really. This is going to sound bad, but they didn't think through the full implications of putting an author like that into the episode.
Because of the it's so tonally different.
Because I'm going to not beat that horse, but because of how this episode works out, you just then throw everything into
Yeah. It's dropping a grenade in the middle of the concept. All right. Well, let's bring this part of it to a close by picking, as we always do, a favorite and a least favorite of this batch. It's gonna if Peter lives. Sean, let's go with you. Let's have a favorite and a least favorite.
I don't think this will shock anyone. Favorite Waltz, least favorite Resurrection.
And this whole time leading up to this, I thought you loved Resurrection. Oh my goodness.
It's
Peter,
amazing.
Peter, what about you?
I want to do Waltz, but just to be different, I will go with the Magnificent Ferengi.
Is your favorite?
Because it's so obnoxious. And to continue on my controversial train, my least favorite is Far Beyond the Stars.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Lightning bolts.
Because of the meta again.
Burn the witch. Burn the witch. I love it. She's a witch.
Way as much as a church, though.
I am also going to pick the Magnificent Ferengi, but I'll jump on board with my Irish brother and also dislove Resurrection. Dull as dishwater. Oh my goodness. Totally awesome. Oh my God. This has been a hoot. My goodness. Well, before we get to wrap up, I just wanted to let everybody know, even with Peter's controversial take, drop us a line on social media, which I'll describe in a moment here. But that also includes, I'm looking to get this going again, the mailbag, which we always used to have great success with at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Write us a letter. Tell us how crazy we are. But with that... Yes, him specifically. Just make sure to put his name in caps in the subject line.
Sorry, as well. Here's Peter's home address. Okay, so
this is his schedule, and this is his license plate number.
And a list of his fears. Yeah,
and exactly. Sean, this has been magnificent. Thank you for joining us. Tell us about Trek culture and tell us where we can find you.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much. Okay, Trek Culture, you'll find us YouTube primarily. That's obviously where all of the latest stuff will go out there. We do also have on whatculture.com. Think of it almost as spoilers. All of our articles, which get turned into videos, they arrive there first. So, do make sure that you're checking out there as well. I write some of them. Our other writers like Jack, Clive write so much as well. There's a lot of content there, so you won't be stuck for content. We also have a podcast that goes out every Tuesday, asterisk, because sometimes it's a Wednesday, but primarily it's every Tuesday, which I know we took a hiatus last week because of the New Year's of it all. But I think we're supposed to be recording tomorrow, so I'm pretty sure we're back this week.
I guess you'll find out.
Yeah, like I'll just be sitting here on a Zoom call going, hello? And yeah, so the big thing for the next while will be we're gearing up towards Section 31. So looking forward to that. And there will be, as I say, we have some fun interviews coming up. We won't give anything away in case they cancel. We have some fun stuff coming, and yeah, lots more content. We're excited for 2025 because 2025. You mentioned earlier as well. Strange New Worlds is coming at some point,
right?
So we don't know when. I have not given up hope that we might see a season 3 of Prodigy. Now, I don't think it won't be 2025 if we do see one.
They got to make it first, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm not giving up the dream. And then whatever's coming on with Starfleet Academy as well.
Yes.
I most likely would see a trailer.
Yeah.
Might be a bit soon to get a season, but
Right.
yeah, we have Star Trek coming because I think that for a couple of years ago, I think it was 2022, and I promise I'll keep this short. I think it was 2022. I think we nearly had something like 30 weeks of new Star Trek.
Right. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
And then we got back to a more normal schedule.
Right.
And I say normal as if I didn't enjoy it. 30 weeks of Star Trek was amazing.
You're right.
So this one is, I think, going to be a more normal year for that one. We'll have Section 31 end of this month, 24th of January. Then we will have Strange New Worlds probably during the summer.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
my guess.
We'll have to see what happens
Yeah.
with Starfleet Academy. So it's really, really exciting, which is my long way of saying, yes, there will be more ups and downs this year. We will be doing retro ups and downs. We have the first series of retro ups and downs planned. Again, I won't say what yet in case plans change, as they often do. And then you'll find us on all the socials. I'm probably most active on Blue Sky at the moment.
That's how we connected. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, but that's more just I went for a run today. Please give me praise. That's
Me
usually
too. It's pictures of my cats. I'm not gonna lie.
Brilliant. We are still on that other site because I don't know what's happening there, but yeah.
Not us. We're off.
Blue Sky would be the number. We have a Threads account, but I'm the one who's supposed to be managing the Threads account, so there's not a lot of content there. So I do apologize.
It's
just gonna be honest with you, not a great attention span.
Yeah, it's okay. Awesome. Gotcha. And Peter, where do they find you?
Well, if you want to find me to burn me at the stake, my social media is at Petrus Aquinas. I'm on some social media platforms, not many, but you can find me. I won't say much. I think the most recent thing I posted was my Christmas cookies, which was Lower Decks. So
Right.
There you go.
There you go. Any fears for his safety after this recording,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm going to hide in go to Starbase 80. You can't find me.
So find that big wormhole.
Otherwise, you can find me on the Discord for both this channel and some other places. That's where I'm most active. And then you can also find me on ELH's channel doing some role-playing games and behind the scenes at Starship Excelsior.
Yay. Good deal. Well, God, this has been incredible. As always, you can find me on all of the quote unquote main socials except for that other one. And so I'm talking about Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I am at the C3 TheCeeThree. Also very active on the Secret Friends Unite Discord and the United Trekkers of Michigan, which is not just Michigan people, but it's just a Discord to talk about Star Trek, which is what we all love doing anyway. Well, with that, gentlemen, amazing show. Thanks so much. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.